Prayers of Lord Brahma to Krishna, Chapter 14, Canto 10. So far, we've managed to work our way through the first 8 verses. You're familiar with the story that leads up to this, right? Okay. So I'll just do a little review of what comes before this section. This section is Brahma's apology. There's several parts. Those several parts include the very first verse, very nice verse in Brahma's prayers. He's having darshan of Krishna in his original form, and he's giving details of his everything, his peacock feather and his smile and his features, his all attractive features, and he's offering his obeisances. He then quickly goes into describing the inconceivable nature of what he just experienced. And he doesn't say explicitly, but it seems he's so intelligent, he understands exactly what just happened. What just happened was, come on up. Come forward, because more people are going to want to sit in the back row like you, and then they'll be up, climbing up the stairs, going upstairs. What Brahma just saw was one of many exhibitions of Krishna being the source of everything. Now, other personalities in Krishna's pastimes saw that. Mother Yasoda saw that. She saw everything. She saw an even more comprehensive revelation of the form of the universe than Arjuna saw. She saw everything within Krishna's mouth, including herself looking within Krishna's mouth, inside Krishna's mouth. She saw everything. And she was overwhelmed. Nanda Maharaj and the elders in the cowherd village of Vrindavan, they had a desire. Mother Yasoda's wasn't prompted to see everything, but theirs was prompted to see the spiritual world. After the pastime of Varuna's assistants kidnapping Nanda Maharaj and taking him to the abode of Varuna, and Krishna plunging into the sea, reaching the abode of Varuna, and asking for his father to be returned to him. Nanda Maharaj saw both the unparalleled opulence compared to anything he had ever experienced of the heavenly realm, which was Varuna's abode. And then that Lord, Varuna, worshipped his little boy. And he saw it right in front of his eyes. And so when Krishna took Nanda Maharaj back to Vrindavan, he shared with the Brijbasis what happened. He saw this and he saw that and saw the other thing. And he started wondering, who is he? Which is not the same, but something similar to what Lord Brahma was wondering. Who is he? What's the limit of his opulence? So the Brijbasis started wondering, maybe this and that and the other thing. If he's Narayan, maybe he'll be kind enough to show us the spiritual world. They didn't say anything. They just had that thought. But Krishna, being omniscient, knew. And so he decided he would show them the spiritual world. So he showed them the spiritual world. How did he do that? He took them to a lake, same lake where Akura saw what Akura saw. Again, it's the spiritual world. Brahma Hradha is called, the lake of Brahman. Hradha is a word for lake. And they took their bath in that place. Krishna lifted them up. It didn't say exactly what that means. He lifted them up in consciousness at least, and they saw the spiritual world. They saw Krishna's abode, and they were amazed at how similar it was to theirs, because it's the same. And they even saw themselves in that spiritual world. They didn't see all the other Brijbasis. They saw themselves, and they saw Krishna being worshipped by the personified Vedas. And they were very astonished. And then they were brought to the shore, and by Yogamaya's influence, they forgot everything. They forgot everything. Because Krishna wanted to reciprocate with their curiosity, but also Krishna wanted their love, which they were capable of offering to him, a kind of love that's unrestricted. Unrestricted meaning the awe and veneration kind of love restricts the closeness and familiarity and sweetness of love. They don't go together. Majesty and intimacy don't go together. We touched on a verse from, it's an important verse, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 11, where it said, this is Brahma praying to Vishnu, "You're so kind that according to your desire, according to the desire of your devotee, you show them a form corresponding to their desire." So Krishna is quite flexible. And he does things through his potencies and his omniscience. And he just desires something and it happens, which is expressed in Brahma's prayers too. What Krishna, in the previous chapter, what Krishna showed Brahma, because Brahma wanted to know what's the limit of the mystic power of this little 4-year-old boy. He got the answer. There's no limit. Brahma's mystic power is very great, but it has limit. And Krishna's mystic power has no limit. So he experienced it without all the detail. Those powers and potencies and shaktis of Krishna, they're all subordinate to his Swarup Shakti. They're his shaktis, but his Ichha Shakti, or his desire potency, is detected by the other shaktis, and then off they go, taking care of whatever it is that Krishna wants. In this spiritual world and in the material world, he's all-powerful. I remember in childhood going to church, and he would sing hymns, Lord God Almighty, merciful, and something. And, we had no idea. Like, Brahma got the idea. However, Brahma is not a Brijbasi. And so in his prayers, we'll see shortly, he, not today actually, he appreciates the exceptional fortune of the residents of Vrindavan, because they're way beyond. They see the opulence of Krishna, but they're not moved by the opulence of Krishna. They're moved by the loving, intimate exchange with Krishna. That moves them, no matter how much he shows his opulence. And his knowing that, he then conceals. He may show for a moment, then he conceals again by his own Yogamaya potency, another one of his potencies. Because he enjoys the intimacy of the love of the residents of Vrindavan more than the exalted prayers of the personified Vedas or these wonderful prayers of Brahma. So an important section that comes before what you see on the screen here, the texts 9 through 12, is a very clear delineation between Gyan or Gyan Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. The connection, the supremacy of Bhakti, the power of Bhakti, that Gyan cannot reach to, but by Bhakti, not only one can understand the inconceivable, even more so, the inconceivable places himself conquered by and subordinate to those who are engaged in unalloyed devotion. And the method is also embedded within those prayers, the method of hearing, of his activities and his qualities, specifically that's mentioned. And his qualities are innumerable and inconceivable, and his pastimes are innumerable and inconceivable, and so you can never find an end to it. Nonetheless, there's potencies embedded in those sound vibrations, those narrations, specifically Sanmukharitam Bhavadiya Vartan, from himself, like speaking Bhagavad Gita or speaking Uddhava Gita, Krishna speaking, or he speaks some things to Brahma, etc. And the great devotees of the Lord speaking something about Krishna. So that's the means, and then the goal. And we discussed this. The talks between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. What's the goal of life and the means to reach it? The goal of life is to be connected to Krishna once again, and to know Krishna. It's exactly what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of the Vedas is to know me. Vedaishta Sayarvayar Aham Eva Vedyo. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So the goal of life is to know Krishna. The means to know is bhakti. And explicitly in these prayers, Gyan is not sufficient. It's nice. He describes in those prayers, yogis, they have all these nice, perfect qualification. They have control of the mind and senses. Within themselves, they fix their mind upon Paramatma feature of the Lord. And they engage while, in the course of their lives, in hearing topics about Krishna. They may also come to the stage of perfection. He says in one of his prayers, and reach the kingdom of God. But even beyond that is the very special position of the Brijbasis. And he's acknowledging it. He's a visitor. He's an outsider. And he saw what he saw. Krishna did what Krishna did, and the cowherd boys are just playful, having lunch with him and playing games and doing what little boys do as if they're just little boys. And Krishna's enjoying not just playing games, he is enjoying the kind of love that these very qualified jivas have. In a earlier chapter, chapter 12, Krita Punya Punja, a description of the activities of the cowherd boys, lengthy description, and Shukadev kind of goes off and says, how fortunate. Could you just put that away? Thanks. Could you, what's the qualification to become a cowherd boy like this? How many countless numbers of lifetimes of great austerities have they undergone to come to this stage? Of course, you can't come to that stage just by austerities, But he's marveling at years and lifetimes of activity, of unalloyed service to come to this stage. Of course, most of the cowherd boys, they're eternal associates of Krishna that have manifested to assist him in his pastimes. It's a detail that is disclosed by both Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami in their writings. Rupa Goswami in two places, in Laghu Bhagavatamrita and another book that describes Krishna's pastimes. It's a long title, I forget the name of the title. And Jiva Goswami writes the same. In Goloka, that's the spiritual world, the upper Goloka, Krishna's form and Balaram's form are eternally 16. Which means there's no exhibition of childhood pastimes. So the exhibition of childhood pastimes is specific to when Krishna descends and performs his pastimes in this world. That means in Goloka, there's the mood, but not the lila. There's no lila of Krishna's birth in Goloka. There's no crawling of Krishna in his childhood in Goloka. There's the mood, but there's no lila that the associates see or experience. So the pastimes in this realm are very special. So the eternal associates, their expansions come to this realm and participate with Krishna in this way. And it's very joyful. Because this is in relation to the calves and the boys. It's not yet in this chapter dealing with the parental affection and the other rasas. But Brahma is understanding what he saw. Mother Yasoda isn't exactly understanding. Arjuna has something of an understanding. Brahma has a very clear understanding. Though each of the cowherd boys was a form of Krishna, looking like the cowherd boys. Each of the calves was a form of Krishna, looking just like the calves. And all those Narayana forms and all the Shaktis, that's also Krishna and Krishna's Shakti. And the wind-up of all of that exhibition of majesty, which Brahma could understand more readily than he can understand the intimacy of Vrindavan, Krishna withdrew it all. In a flash, just poof, it all disappeared. And then he just saw the original. So he was appreciating his kindness to show him what he showed him, and to show him his original form, which we know from Bhagavad Gita chapter 12 is very rare to see. And he saw. And not only saw, he understood. This is the original form. And so some of the prayers we read include an understanding that everything that exists has its connection with Krishna. One may not see that connection, one may see the connection. Everything has the connection with Krishna. He's the source of everything. Everything is connected with him. So now comes, and that's not understandable by Gyan. We can say it in a Gyan sense. We can read about it in texts, but the realization, the Vigyan feature comes through bhakti. And bhakti is nourished by just hearing, as we're doing. So this is a nice painting. It shows Brahma, because Krishna allowed or arranged for Brahma's prayers to be a little bit more remote. That is, nobody was around. Of course, the cowherd boys and the calves were in a cave anyways. But there's birds and other living entities flying around. But it was in a secluded place, so there was with some privacy. And now there's 9, 10, 11, and 12, 4 verses where Brahma is going to seek Krishna's forgiveness. So for glorification, the supremacy of bhakti, everything is connected with Krishna, and that cannot be understood by Gyan. This is the head of our sampradaya, teaching us by his prayers to Krishna about how important the bhakti process is. Okay, now text 9. My Lord, just see my uncivilized impudence. It's Anaryan. There's Arya and there's Anarya. So he's putting himself in that category. Uncivilized impudence. To test your power, I tried to extend my illusory potency, mayam vitatye, to cover you, the unlimited and primeval supersoul, who bewilders even the masters of illusion. Mayi Mayani. What am I compared to you? I am just like a small spark, Archie, in the presence of a great fire, Agnau. So several things. He's seeing the original form of Krishna, and he's also understanding the original form of Krishna in his expansion is Paramatma within the heart. Because it's Paramatma within the heart, or it's the Vishnu forms. The Vishnu forms deal with Prakriti, material nature. And Krishna in his original form doesn't. In his expansion as Paramatma, he does. So it's Krishna, we can say, Krishna is within the heart. And it's true. And we can say, no, Krishna not in the heart. Paramatmas are in the heart, but Paramatma is Krishna's expansion, thus Krishna is in the heart. So he's addressing him in that way, right, specifically in the second line. Paratmani. You're the primeval supersoul who bewilder even the masters of illusion. Then he's making it very clear, his understanding, the position said previously, minus bhakti, Gyan does not make it possible to understand the stage of attained self-realization. Self-realization in one sense is theoretical, meaning I'm not this body. So I'm sure everybody in the room, if we were asked, do you accept the existence of the soul? Like most people that are theistic will say yes. And then how many have realized that's who you really are? Not too many hands will go up. So the stage of self-realization is more than theoretical. It's beyond Gyan. It's a beginning. As Rupa Goswami writes in Nectar Devotion, it may help one get a foothold. But your foothold is to climb something. And it's a mountain to climb to get to the stage of self-realization. And in the Brahma Bhuta verse from Bhagavad Gita, repeatedly Prabhupada would say, because it's right in there in the verse, but bhakti begins from that platform of self-realization. So since we're not raising our hand that we're self-realized, what are we doing? We're doing devotional service in practice. Devotional service in practice. It's not non-devotional service. It's devotional service in practice. It's a stage. But then devotional service begins, means what real devotional service is unmixed, unalloyed. There's nothing else. And the practice that we're doing is to help us, however gradually, to help us get to that stage where there's nothing else. Nothing else doesn't mean throwing things away or giving them bad names or negation. Where there's nothing else, it means seeing everything in relation to Krishna. That's in the previous verses, and it's going to come up in the later section as well. So I'm a jiva, and you're super soul, or the primeval super soul. Primeval super soul is the source of super soul. Just like a common example Prabhupada would give is spark and fire. So this is just an image of a match, and close-up of the match. There's lots of little sparks flying here and there, but the sparks flying here and there are coming from something. So the jiva soul is also like a little spark coming from the Supreme Soul. So who am I? There's several nice paintings connected with these prayers of Brahma. I like this one. Krishna's casually leaning on a bent tree. That little bird doesn't exactly look like a swan, but it's good luck carrying Brahma. He's a big Brahma and a little swan. Anyway, it's a nice painting. Next. Therefore, Ataha, O infallible Lord, kindly excuse my offenses. Kshama is like be merciful, be kind. Kshama. I've taken birth in the mode of passion, and am therefore simply foolish, presuming myself a controller, independent of your lordship. My eyes are blinded by the darkness of ignorance. So there we go, passion and ignorance, which causes me to think of myself as the unborn creator of the universe. But please consider that I am your servant, and therefore worthy of your compassion. Now, this is Canto 10, Chapter 14, and going back to Canto 2, Chapter 9, when the Supreme Lord, because we've been discussing this, after his 100 or 1,000 or some many years of tapasya, chanting of his mantra, Lord Vishnu appeared before him. And then he came before Lord Vishnu in the Yogpith, the center of the spiritual creation. And we're not going to let you sit back there. The reason is somebody will come in after you, and then they'll be up the stairs or something like that. I hope you don't mind. Fantastic. Hare Krishna. Brahma's prayers. Brahma's prayers. Here's a painting. Brahma's prayers to Krishna. After stealing the calves and the cowherd boys. That's the place we are in the Bhagavatam. Canto 10, Chapter 14. So he, in Canto 2, Chapter 9, after his long austerity, he's saying, I'm born in the mode of passion and covered with ignorance. But gosh, he was, for even the smaller number, 100 celestial years where there's nothing except darkness. That'd be pretty lonely, right? For 100 celestial years. A celestial year is much longer than our solar year. There wasn't even a sun at that time. It was just darkness in all directions. And a lotus flower and some splashing underneath. He heard the splashing of the Garbhodak Ocean. 100 celestial years chant japa. No prasadam, no naps. Just chant your mantra for 100 celestial years. So he's not in passion and ignorance. He's invested with potency, srishti, shakti, for creation, but it's not that he's in the mode of passion. He's engaging that mode for the purpose of creation because he's empowered to do that. And covered with ignorance, he's not covered with ignorance, but it's the nature, we discussed this earlier, it's the nature of an elevated person that they're naturally humble. Or a very nice description is found in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, and that I like very much. It's describing the residents of Vrindavan. And their humility is utter humility or abject humility, total humility. And what Sanatana Goswami writes is their humility gives rise to prema. And prema gives rise to humility. So he says interchangeably, one is the cause of the other, and vice versa. So as one becomes more spiritually elevated, their mood, their regard towards themselves is the mood of transcendental humility. It's not the other kind. It's transcendental kind. So he's speaking of himself in lowly terms, although he's most elevated. Not just elevated in knowledge, he's elevated in devotion and has received mercy from Krishna. I mean, I know some people that they're really fixed, or even obsessive about wanting to see Krishna, and they can't think of anything else. But he's seen Krishna. Not only seen Krishna, he saw what he saw. He's the source of everything, and etc. The inconceivable is now experienced, not just conceived, but experienced. He's in a very, very fortunate, blessed position. And in that fortunate and blessed position, he's thinking of himself in very humble terms. He's not, from the previous verse, he's a tiny jiva. And in this verse, he's, I am your servant, Natavan. Van means one who possesses, and Nata is the Lord. I possess the Lord means you're my master, and I'm your servant. And that's isn't that the Bhagavatam's teaching? Isn't that Lord Chaitanya's teachings? That means the Bhagavatam's teachings, this is one of so many examples, the Bhagavatam's teachings are Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Lord Chaitanya's teachings are the Bhagavatam's teachings. I've been asked to speak on the topic of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya at the Baltimore Temple Sunday program. Get ready, you're going to hear it again. And I'm planning to do the same thing again in Potomac the following Sunday, in preparation for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. But Lord Chaitanya didn't say anything that's not Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam doesn't say anything that's other than what Lord Chaitanya says. I am your servant. Gopi Bhartur Kamalayor Das Anudas. Servant of the servant. And therefore worthy of your compassion. Anukampyo Mayi. So Mayi means it's a potency of Krishna, and his potency of compassion. I'm worthy of your compassion. He's asking for forgiveness, and he's asking in a very intelligent way. Why would he be forgiven? Look what he did. He kidnapped. That's a crime. I mean, certainly in modern times, I'm sure it was a crime to kidnap little kids. In Vedic times, somebody does that as a criminal. And not only that, it was Krishna's pastime. He just interrupted Krishna's pastimes. That's bad. this verse that text 8, Tat Tenu Kampam Susamikshamana, which we spent some time discussing, he knows he's going to get spanked. He's going to get a reaction for that bad deed. And he's teaching us, if you make some mistakes, intentional or otherwise, unintentional, if some mistake is made, some reaction is going to come. Don't try to wiggle. Just accept it. And as you accept it, don't move an inch, a fraction of an inch, from the position of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And you are protected. Even as the reaction is coming, you're protected. And reactions are removed or minimized by the arrangements of the Supreme. So I'm worthy of your compassion. He's appealing to his compassion as the entryway into his request for forgiveness. Even the personality of Kali did that with Maharaj Parikshit. What was he doing? And Maharaj Parikshit had a sword, he was ready to chop him. But the personality of Kali fell at his feet. You're the king, I've surrendered to you. Don't take my life. So he didn't. But there was a Kshatriya code. One who surrenders to the king gives protection. And this is the King of Kings. And it's not just a duty in that case, like a code of Dharma or something. It's the nature of the Supreme Lord. I did a bad thing. I'm acknowledging that, he's already several times acknowledged the bad thing. Previous verse specifically. And I'm fit to be punished, however you wish. I'm seeking your compassion. Kindly excuse my offense. I'm worthy of your compassion. These two phrases. The next verse, also very interesting. What am I? A small creature, measuring 7 spans of my own hand. I am enclosed in a pot-like universe, composed of material nature. The total material energy, false ego, ether, air, water, and fire. Ether, air, water, and earth. And what is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body, just as particles of dust pass through the openings of a screened window, which tells us they had screened windows long ago. It's a new thing, but it's still an old thing. So they may not have looked like our screen windows today, but here's an image, which I'm sure we've all seen, light passing through a window, and there's a screen, and you see little dust particles dancing around in that sunlight. So passing through the screen are little particles, and those little particles are compared to the universes that are emanating from the body of Mahavishnu. Now, he's already spoken of the Supersoul. Now it's without naming Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is also a portion of his plenary portion, but just stay with the portion of the plenary portion. Universes are emanating from him, like particles of dust emanating through or coming through the screened window. So I'm so tiny, but here's a nice way to compare my tininess compared to your greatness. Just a little bit expanding on this. How big is the body of Mahavishnu? When we take the picture that as he's breathing, as he's exhaling from the pores of his body, little, according to the language of Brahma Samhita, little golden seeds. Those seeds can be small, but even still, a seed of a universe can't be that small. seed of a universe, many, 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 many golden seeds emanate from the pores of his body as he exhales, and simultaneously through those universes in their seed-like form emanating from his body as he exhales, those seeds contact the Mahatattva. And what's the Mahatattva? Mahatattva is the state of material nature, or Prakriti, where the 24 elements have separated out. It was mentioned, the 24 elements that Brahma saw surrounding the forms of Narayan for each one. So there's the spiritual counterpart, or you can say the prototype. And from the prototype comes the expansion of the prototype. The material elements become manifest from the undifferentiated pradhan state by Mahavishnu's glance. So he glances and he breathes. He's a person. He glances and he breathes, and as he exhales, those golden seeds contact the material elements. In Bhaktisiddhanta's language, the elements conglomerate or gather around or stick to or cling to those seeds. And so then the seeds have a chamber. There's two terms in Sanskrit, but there's a chamber for them to grow, adhara, and then there's the material cause, the ingredients themselves. So the universe has a shell that's formed as the universe starts to expand. And Brahma is saying, I'm in one of those pot-like shells. And you're the source of all of them. So how significant am I in comparison to you? But it leads into the fourth and final verse of these prayers. It's a nice one. O Lord Adhokshaja, does a mother take offense when within her womb, when the child within her womb kicks with his legs? And is there anything in existence, whether designated by various philosophers as real or unreal, that is actually outside of your abdomen? That's Mahavishnu, who, during the cosmic annihilation, all living entities are within him. And when he exhales and the universes in their seed-like form come out and the elements cling to those seed-like universes, he, Mahavishnu, expands as Garbhodaksha Vishnu within each universe, and a universe's worth of living entities are manifest within his abdomen. So there's this nice Sanskrit word, samasti. I like Sanskrit because I don't know what it means, and then you hear what it means, and then you know what it means. Samasti, the aggregate. Now there's the aggregate of material elements, and there's the aggregate of living entities. Samasti is the aggregate, the totality of all living entities. How many is that? Too many to count. Is it a finite number? Yes. How many? Too many to count. Asankhyatāh. And those samasti, the totality of living entities, are what come out with Mahavishnu's glance. Shambhu, his glance, that's the name of his glance, because the glance then contacts pradhan and mixes with pradhan. And so there's living entities along with time energy, and the living entities with time energy and prakriti, then things start to happen, because without time energy things don't happen. You have to have time for things to happen, material things to happen. You have to have time energy. So the time energy is working, it's agitating. The living entity's karma by the influence of time, also becomes agitated, and those living entities are within the abdomen of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and from the abdomen of Garbhodakshay Vishnu comes this lotus flower. According to the Bhagavatam, that stem and the lotus flower is the total karma, not representing, it's the total karma of all the one universe's worth of living entities. Not yet fully, detailed out, because there's no bodies yet. But the first one, body, is Brahma. So he's saying, I'm within this pot-like universe, but the pot-like universe is an emanation from Mahavishnu, and Garbhodakshay Vishnu is your expansion, is his expansion. And just like a mother with a child in her womb, and the child at a certain stage starts to kick, the mother doesn't, scold the child. It's because what children do. So I'm like that. And for that matter, what is outside of your abdomen? Is there anything material or spiritual? That's a Bhagavad Gita teaching. There's two things, para and apara prakriti, and there's a controller of both. And there isn't a third thing. There's Purusha, there's Prakriti, and there isn't a third thing. Or as Prabhupada put it very succinctly, there's two things. There's Krishna and there's Krishnas. And there's not a third thing in the creation of God. Because if there was a third thing, what's the third thing? Something outside of him. There isn't something outside of him. Then he concluded, there's no void in the creation of God. Void is a myth. Negation is a myth. The absence of something. I remember in 8th grade science, we had a really good science teacher. Remember his name, remember the classroom. It was really nice. Very good teacher. So one day, dramatically, he came out from behind his big desk and stood in front of the desk. He put a bell jar on the desk and asked us, does anybody know what this is? Nobody knew. So he told us what a bell jar is. And then he hooked up the bell jar to a vacuum pump that was really noisy. And he pumped out everything from the bell jar. So then his question was, what's inside the bell jar now? And you're supposed to say nothing, or a vacuum. Nothing. But there's space. There's Akash. So you can take out the moisture and the air and any solids, but there's still Akash. He didn't teach us that. It's, the state of vacuum, a state of nothingness. So some philosophers and meditators like that idea. We become one with the nothingness, called nirvana. Cessation of material existence is the meaning of nirvana. Nir means not, and vana means forest. So you're out of the forest of material existence, or cessation of material activity. Okay, when you stop material activity, what do? Nothing. What's the highest truth? Nothingness. What do you do there? Nothing. Do you exist? No. Right within Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, Prabhupada explained very clearly, beyond that nirvana stage is what is taught in the Bhagavatam. What's taught in the Bhagavatam is mukti, muktir hitvanyata rupam svarupena vyavastati. It's found in Canto, that phrase, Canto 2, chapter 10, the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam. Mukti is one of them. And when Shukadev Goswami explains what mukti is, That's his definition. The Svarup is engaged in activity. The spiritual Svarup, the spiritual form of the living entity, is beyond cessation of material activity. It's fundamental to Bhagavatam teaching and to a life of devotion. Now, we don't have that consciousness, but that's the principle. And the idea through bhakti is to cleanse the misconceptions and coverings, etc. However, gradually, to come to the stage of beyond liberation. Beyond liberation. What's beyond liberation? Beyond nirvana. It's engaging your activities in relation to Krishna. So you do that with your spirit soul, but if the spirit soul is thus engaged, then matter is also going to move accordingly. And so we have a regulative stage of bhakti, where we do those things according to the codes of the Vedas, etc. That's the practice stage. And then there's the beyond practice stage, the spontaneous stage. Spontaneous stage, where the object is a nice definition of the spontaneous stage, where the intelligence doesn't have to guide the mind or senses. That's the spontaneous stage. That means there's raga, there's like an attraction to the object that doesn't require a prompt. Just attracted to Krishna. That's the spontaneous stage. And our practice is meant to carry us to that. We're not there yet. The sadhana stage is meant to carry us to that spontaneous stage. When devotees, supposing you in your home you have some deities, many of you have deities, I'm sure. In the beginning, you learn the procedures and you become fixed in some regulative practice of worship and cleanliness and offerings and decorations and whatever period of time when you do your deity bathing and things like that, and or at the temple. And the home is a micro of the temple, which is a macro of the same activities. And after some time, when bhakti unfolds, there's an attraction to do something special on Janmashtami or Gaur Purnima or something, and you in the mind you're thinking how you want it to be, what flowers, what ornaments, what new dress, etc., etc. Prabhupada explains that's the beginning awakening stage of the spontaneous stage. Because prior to that it's regulative, which is fine. And regulative should not become mechanical or complacency, like, why am I doing this? You do complacently and it becomes like that. The regulations are meant for purification to come to the stage where it becomes spontaneous. And one of the best ways is follow closely behind those who have that taste, that spontaneous taste. Associate with them, learn from them, hear from them. And our great acharyas hear these, same as Brahma said earlier in his prayers, Sanmukharitam Bhavadiyavartan. By the hearing process is primarily our method. Sound, hearing, topics of Krishna, name of Krishna, form of Krishna, qualities of Krishna, from the right source. Those sound vibrations cleanse and stimulate natural attraction. The practical activities, deity worship included, are important for regulating and purifying. And then the hearing. we'll discuss this a little bit more as we go forward. So let's see if that's our topic for this evening. Let's see if there's some discussion. Coming up short, after this apology section, he starts moving into a Braja Prem mood, Braja Bhakti mood, because he's in Vrindavan. He's moved by their mood. It's a very nice section. The head of our sampradaya is teaching us that way. Okay, so let's see if there's some topics you'd like to discuss.
So when Brahma is praying to Krishna, it looks like he is appealing to the compassion of Krishna.
In this section, yes.
And while doing that, it could easily go into the area of demanding or expecting something from Krishna. So is my sincerity, is the sincerity the key there, or how does it not go into that realm of like, okay, I expect Krishna to forgive me?
Well, on the one hand and on the other hand, you can expect Krishna to forgive because he's compassionate and forgiving. But if one approaches in that mechanical sense, like a vending machine, then that's not what the sincerity that Krishna is looking for. I mean, he's the supreme person. We're not supreme persons. But when someone is genuinely seeking forgiveness, even an ordinary fellow, their heart is melted and wish to give. There's some hard-hearted people that no matter what they won't, but it's natural. So commensurate with the sincerity of appealing, there's a nice teaching that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives in relation to offending a Vaishnav, who by nature is also compassionate. But supposing one approaches a Vaishnav, I made a mistake, I'm appealing to you with straw in my teeth, please forgive me for this mistake. And, something comes back that says they're not forgiving you, which can happen. And there's many, human foibles that bring about such a thing. But if there's a Vaishnava that does like that, then one patiently goes on. And again, so it makes a similar appeal. And if someone sees that, when, a human, if someone sees that someone is sincere, they're naturally forgiving. Even if they're not so sincere, some persons are very forgiving. And Krishna is not obliged one way or the other to be this or to not be this, or to be that or to not be that. Krishna there's no rules that govern him. But the compassionate nature is his. It's of him, it's part of him. And so he's naturally, so a sincere person is feeling humble, and it's not coming from a place of expectation. It's coming from honoring that quality and character in another that's compassionate and kind. So that's a long answer. The short answer is it depends on one's sincerity, and that's the valve that checks, just a mechanical expectation approach. It's sincerity and humility, foundational characteristics of bhakti. Yes. We're doing our protocol. In the back, our hostess.
Maharaj, I have a question. Earlier you mentioned that in Vrindavan, Krishna and Balaram are only 16, and there was
Goloka.
in Goloka Vrindavan. But Brahma's prayers took place to Krishna when he was 4 years old.
That's right, because that was not in the Goloka Vrindavan.
That was here, exhibited here in
the
the
earthly past.
on the earthly pastime. So then in the Krishna book, we have all these stories, all these leelas.
Yes.
What did they take place in the spiritual world in Golok Vrindavan or here on the earthly plane? Like, how do we, because I would sometimes wonder as I'm reading.
Okay. I mentioned it because I personally it took me a while to digest that pill. Because I wasn't accustomed to hearing it.
Right.
And I through research and etc., I came across it. I can tell you how I came across it, in case you want to know. I became curious, how long did Krishna stay in Mathura? Because, let me just carry on a little bit. Vrindavan, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the pastimes of Krishna, the chronology and duration, the time length of his pastimes are not so well delineated. The pastimes are, the chronology and duration is not. Vishwanath makes it very clear. He was 11 years, 12 months when he left Vrindavan to go to Mathura. That's how old he was when he had this fight with Kamsa. Just before 12. And it gets into further detail. That he received Diksha, Gayatri Diksha, from Gargamuni when he was 12. And there's further detail. For Kshatriyas, that's the standard common age for Kshatriya boys to receive Diksha, or mantra. And he had his head shaved and got Diksha, and then from there he went to Sandipani Muni school. So I started with that. I started like, how long did he stay in Mathura? Because how many times did he have battle with Jarasandha? And how often did take Jarasandha to get so many Akshohinis of soldiers together? So that's where it started. And then, how we say he lived for 125 years. So he was in Dwarka for 11 years, 8 months, minus whatever it was he was in Mathura, and up to 125 years. I was just curious, and I asked very, well-read, learned personalities, without naming names. I asked the people who would likely know. And the answer I got was that it's not clear. It's not well delineated. So when I was researching like that, I started going to Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami to see what they have to say about this, maybe in their writings. And that's when I came across these two great acharyas indicating what I said. And I was like, what? So now, that's the detail. Your question is, the pastimes that we read about in Krishna book are as Boma Lila. And so are the Boma Lilas unique to this realm? Or do they also take place in the spiritual realm? Because we often hear they're just Krishna performs his pastimes in Goloka, and he transports and displays those pastimes here. And the answer is a little, it's not crisp and clear, but it's that there's a bhava. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes it. There's Nitya Lila and there's Naimittika Lila. Nitya Lila we know. Naimittika is occasional. And the pastimes that are occasional are the pastimes during his childhood, which are so attractive. But, there's no birth. That's an example. There's no birth pastime in Goloka. And they would then follow the up to a certain age, there's a bhava, but the prakat manifestation of those leelas are not there. There's a bhava as if they're there. It gets more far out. You ready for more far out? Got your seatbelt fastened?
Sure.
Both Sanatana Goswami, it's a different source, and Rupa Goswami indicate kind of like as above, so below. Meaning, specifically, in the below, there's demigods, and above, there's demigods. But they're prototype demigods. What's a prototype demigod? That's not their language, that's mine. It's Bhaktisiddhanta's language. Because you're familiar with our scriptures enough to know that Brahma received 2 Gayatris, correct? And who did the first Gayatri come from? Saraswati, Sri Brahma Samhita. And it's not his wife, because there's nothing. It's the prototype Saraswati. What's the prototype Saraswati? It's the personality, the goddess that oversees knowledge. From her, this first of his 2 Gayatris came. Then later Krishna's flute. So this is mind-blowing stuff, but I warned you, put your seatbelt on. In Goloka, there's prototype demigods. In Vaikuntha, there's a commander-in-chief of Lord Narayan's army. His name is Vishvaksena, right? You've heard his name before? Vishvaksena. He's a very important personality in Sri Vaishnava worship, Vishvaksena. There's no, why do you gotta have a commander-in-chief? Because there's no battles. There's no bad guys. It's only good guys. They're not allowed in, but he's there anyways. And there's demigods. When you read Brahma Samhita carefully, you'll find there's Digpals, protectors with tridents. So, who are those people? Those are demigods. Because demigods are Digpals in the material creation. As above, so below. Make sure your seatbelt's really secure. There's both Sanatana Goswami, I'm looking at you in the eye, both Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami say there's Yogamaya type demons for Krishna's pleasure. They don't reside there, but Yogamaya doesn't give any details. It just drops the bomb and says there's demigods, there's everything for Krishna, only for Krishna's pleasure. Now we often hear, that we're accustomed to hearing, that Jai and Vijay volunteered, will go to the earthly realm because the Lord likes, this is Vishwanath, he likes combat and who's going to combat him, so if he so desires, we can do that service for him. And so they are cursed by Jai and Vijay. And that's rare. Doesn't cycle again and again. But so according to these 2, Sanatana and Rupa, you can't get higher than that, authority-wise. They're there by Yogamaya influence for Krishna's pleasure. To protect the Dham, and then so Krishna to give an opportunity for his chivalry, and it doesn't give any details, like how and there's no detail. Now, that's will come. You can loosen your seatbelt a little bit. There's a bhava or a mood or an affection, a feeling that there's childhood pastimes, although Krishna is eternally 16. And so, are those pastimes? Your question is: are those pastimes going on there or not? There's the bhava of those pastimes going on, and they're manifest in their fullness by those same eternal associates or expansions of those associates in this realm. I mean, there's so many mysteries of Krishna's pastimes. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It's just when you think, okay, I can let my seatbelt loose now.
No. This was new stuff. Thank you, Maharaj. It was deep. Thank you.
Well, it's new, and it's full of mystery, but it makes sense that within Krishna is everything. And does he have to like come to the mature world to experience chivalry rasa? It's one of there's 5 primary and 7 secondary rasas. Do they not exist in Goloka? They would have to exist in Goloka. It would make sense. So how do you have chivalry in Goloka? Because then you have to have some contention between 2 parties, Krishna and someone. So as Yogamaya, the conclusion, it's not intuitive. They just make the declaration. They don't expand on it either. At least I haven't been able to find it so far. They're there, but not inimical. It's some kind of tension or contention that it allows Krishna to experience the happiness of chivalrous rasa somehow.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We have all the way in the back.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
You can find, if you want to research a little bit, it's in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, mention of demons. It's not like expanded on, but it's there twice. Part 2, Chapter 6. You'll find it.
Guru Maharaj, my question is like I wanted to refine the order of the universe creation. Like I would share what I understood. Can you please correct me and further guide if I went wrong?
If you say it wrong, I'll interrupt you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, thank you, Maharaj. So Mahavishnu glances over Pradhan. That leads to the creation of Mahatattva.
Yes.
And then the seeds emanated from the pores of Mahavishnu.
Or simultaneously. You're putting, and then, as if it's step 1, then step 2, and it may be chronological, and it may be simultaneous.
Sure.
I'm editing.
Yeah. Thank you. So the golden seeds, they interact with the Mahatattva.
Yes.
And fructified to become the fully manifested universes that we are in now.
Fructify. The language. It's safe to stay with the language of Bhakti Siddhanta, because it's taken directly from the Sanskrit of Brahma Samhita. And he uses this nice English word, conglomerate. You got to look it up in a dictionary. What is that? When he uses that word, what does it mean? It means something like the elements cling to. Something like the seed of a male and the ingredients from the body of the female. Cling to, and then start to expand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm clear on that now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. At a certain stage, within each universe, Mahavishnu expands. But, you can read about that. There's other things that happen too. Canto 3 gives lots of details. And then you try to compare Canto 2 with Canto 3, and Canto 2 and 3 with Brahma Samhita, and you kind of go back and forth, and see how the puzzle pieces fit together. And there's some symmetry. It's a little tedious, a little technical, but there is an unfolding from subtle to gross, and then more gross, and then more gross. Okay. Anything else? Anything online? We have something up front. Anything online? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So when Mahavishnu exhales the seeds, and from there all the universe are created, so the size of all the universe are the same or different?
Different. Some are smaller, some are larger. Okay, here's an online question. Okay, great. Nice going.
This question is from Amara Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Lord Brahma has come directly from Lord Vishnu, received Gayatri directly from Krishna, then why is he a conditioned soul belonging to the material realm? And who dies and takes birth? That's the first question.
Well, he receives 2 Gayatris. One of them is from Krishna. One of them is from Krishna's flute. And that's just an editing detail. Another, the main question is, why is he taking birth and then dying? Because he has a material body. Anything that has a material body takes birth and dies. Now, Krishna takes birth, but he doesn't have a material body. So we don't say, they're better to say his appearance. But Brahma takes a material body. His body is a very elevated body, but it's a material body, and he's a jiva with a material body that is born and dies. Does that address the question?
Yes, Maharaj, there is second part also.
Okay, second part.
Maharaj, what is the separated part of Krishna? What does it mean?
Separated part of Krishna. Well, it's in the higher sense, there's nothing separate from Krishna. So you can just, put that one in the garbage can. There's no separated anything. However, the language separated part has to do with the living entity is like a spark that comes in contact with land or water, and then the glowing feature of the spark stops. Disconnected from the fire, the spark loses its fiery quality, or it becomes temporarily put in abeyance. That's the separated. Then again, connected, then the fiery quality. Take that spark that fell on the land and it started to glow for a while and then went out, bring it back into the fire, it's glowing again. Then it's no longer separated. So it's a matter of consciousness and material consciousness being separated by the material covering. But it's not a permanent or absolute situation. The absolute situation is nothing is separated. Like he said, his bina prakriti. Bina means separated. Bina prakriti. That's the 8 elements. But those 8 elements, they're from him. They're of him. And they're under his control. Maya jakshena prakriti. So they're not separated. In another sense, they're separated in the sense that they're used by him to cover living entities. But those same energies can become spiritualized and assist in awakening Krishna consciousness, or awakening the sense of connectedness. Then material energy can act in a spiritual way. Prabhupada's common example was the microphone. It's material. Then he would say what it's made of, plastic and metal and this and that. It's all material elements. It's just material. However, it can be, when used in service to Krishna, it can promote and act in a spiritual consciousness and act in a spiritual way, have a spiritual impact on consciousness. Just the consciousness with which a thing is used can act in a material or covering way or a spiritual or awakening way. Anything? One more, sure. Can you take the microphone?
I was thinking, there's millions of universes that come from the pores of Mahavishnu. Each one of those universes then has its own Brahma.
That's right.
So our Brahma has 4 heads, some Brahmas have more heads, whatever. Every Brahma is different. Now, these prayers of Brahma to Krishna took place on this earthly planet.
Our Brahma.
Our Brahma.
Yeah.
But
what about the other places?
yeah, what about the other Brahmas? And
Well,
would
there's
they?
other Bhagavatams.
Okay.
Bhagavatam means in relation to Bhagavan.
Right.
Bhagavata is in relation to Bhagavan.
So then, in those other universes,
We don't know about.
okay. So those Brahmas maybe,
Who knows?
who knows what? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, looks like we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.